Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trash Talk Podcast. I'm Jim Def, Smokey Rameriz from the Trash Talkers. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, JJ. America is getting colder, or at least the South is. I guess all of America is getting colder, but probably not as cold as Germany. But yes, we complain about the cold over here where you guys probably do not. Seems like the warmer the climate, the more people complain about how cold it is, even when it's not really that cold. We hit the 50s and people start wearing the big fluffy ski jackets, and sometimes in the 60s too, because they can't wait for the temperature change. It gets so hot here during the summer that people can't wait for the change. So once a slight change happens, they just jump headfirst into it and bundle right up. And it's kind of funny because I try not to go head over heels into fashion changes that badly because I don't think it looks very comfortable, but probably not as cold here as it is there, huh?
So, a couple of things. First of all, of course, the entire Northern Hemisphere is getting colder.
Yes, exactly.
50 degrees Fahrenheit for the uninitiated is 10 degrees Celsius.
Yes.
And so it's definitely colder around here. It's more like, I love how if you click the swap button, it doesn't actually swap the numbers around, just the units. So it is like, 50 Celsius is 122 Fahrenheit. I'm like, yeah, okay, I didn't really need to know that. But okay. It's getting, I think most of the time we're like sitting in sort of like the high 30s, low 40s at the moment. Sometimes it does get more in like the 50 to 60 range, but usually only if it's like actually good weather, like not if it's raining or anything like that. So if it's sunny, we still do get those like 50 plus sort of temperatures, but for the most part we stay under.
Oh wow. Yeah, see, people would be crying here if that happened. And we had a 2-day stretch where it actually dipped below freezing overnight, which is obviously 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And
or 0 Celsius.
Yeah, exactly. But it went right back up to 75, 80 within the next 4 or 5 days. So people were back to shorts and tank tops.
I mean, I can't speak for the entirety of Germany, but around where I live, I don't think we've had a single day where it was freezing during the day. Might have briefly during the night, but we just about stayed above for the time, which is actually kind of good because it's normally said that you should put on your winter tires in October. So the fact that we haven't had any freezing all October is actually comparatively good, although I suppose it's a sign of more bad things, of course, because it's getting warmer.
Probably.
Not just in winter, but just in general.
Yeah, we haven't had a snow here. We used to get snow at least a couple days every winter. I'm sorry. And I don't think we've had an actual snow cover the ground since 2014. But when I was a kid, it happened every single year. We'd get 2 to 3 days of snow each year, but it doesn't happen anymore.
It's actually interesting.
We get flurries. But...
not that it's a topic, but it's kind of interesting actually that you don't get that much snow because I think, was it like 2 years ago when it was freezing over in Texas and the entire power grid failed?
Oh, that was last winter.
Was it last year actually? Okay.
Yeah, we hit like 8 degrees here, but no snow.
Because at that time, because I was like, it's not that you're like that close, but it is roughly similar latitude. And so I always get those mixed up. Anyways, so I was like, the weather should be comparable, at least the temperatures. Although I guess you're closer to the ocean, which has a mediating effect, and climate is complicated.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it because more inland, it probably does snow a little more. Usually, the clouds bring in the heat here, so we tend to not get the precipitation at the same time as the weather that's cold enough for it to snow.
Oh.
But yeah, always remember the latitude and longitude. I think you guys are probably a little farther north latitude than us, but latitude is the lines across like a ladder, whereas longitudes are long ways up and down. That's how I always remembered that.
The ladder thing is just about stupid enough they can probably remember that.
Yeah, exactly. I think I learned that in kindergarten, so it should be pretty simple.
I mean...
maybe first grade.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have like learned that at some point, but I never fully remembered it. So it's one of those things where I probably like know for like half a year when I needed to, and then never really.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of that is our actual main topic, though, which is, I forget how I initially worded that. I believe I wrote up for my notes here in Billionaires Bad. What is it? Billionaires have too much power. I mean, yeah, it's the same idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Do they, though? Do they really have too much power? I think, do you guys consider your economy a capitalist economy?
I mean,
in
yes.
Germany. Okay.
I would say that
I think most free countries probably do, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the entire Western world is like straight up capitalist, and even most of the sort of Eastern and Southern like parts are these days more or less capitalist, right? China's sort of a hybrid thing, but they still have capitalist things. They have private industry, although there's really like a state stake in it, and it's a bit more complicated. I think the only country that like has pretty much entirely escaped capitalism, at least they do have a bit of a black market, but generally speaking, would be North Korea.
Yeah, because that's the only way they could have a free market. There is a black market, but yeah, everything's so controlled there. But yeah, outside of China, which is a communist republic somehow, so you expect it to be kind of wonky. But yeah, most of the world considers themselves capitalist. So does every first world country have billionaires? That's the second question. Do you know that?
I don't know that. It's definitely something you could fairly easily look up, although, of course, the definition of a billionaire is always a bit sketch anyways, because it's based on net worth, which is defined as like the total amount of assets that you own, and obviously it's not just, no one has $1 billion just casually sitting in your bank account. Well, actually, I don't know, if you own like hundreds of billions, maybe, but for most people this is going to be houses and stocks and like a bunch of things that are going to be really hard to actually accurately value. And I mean, of course, if someone has like tens of billions of dollars, it doesn't matter if their stocks happen to be inflated by 20%. But obviously, when it gets in the sort of border ranges, it gets a bit more tricky. Let's see. I'm sure there's a list of countries by number of billionaires. I don't know. Countries by number of billionaires. Wow. Got him in one. Okay. 51 in the US. 15 in the... Wait, what? Rank per capita? that's the rank. Sorry. Number of billionaires. That's where we are. 735 in the United States. 495 in China. 169 in India. And then, in fourth, for total number of billionaires, is Germany with 126.
Wow, that's not bad, actually. Considering all those other countries are giant countries, and Germany is quite small comparatively.
Yeah, I mean, what was it?
You guys are doing pretty well.
We have, a quarter of the population of the US? And like a fraction of the size.
Yeah. And a very small fraction of China's population.
I mean, yeah.
Or India, for that matter.
I mean, yeah, China and India are neck and neck in that department. If you go by rank per capita, Monaco is first.
Oh, wow.
I love this, right?
I would have thought the United Arab Emirates.
Okay, here's the thing, right? Monaco, 3 billionaires. Number 2 by per capita, St. Kitts and Nevis with 2 billionaires. Number 3, Liechtenstein, this gets even better, with 1. They have a billionaire, but their population is so small that still gives them 25.7 billionaires per million people.
I think we've talked about Liechtenstein before on this podcast, I believe. And
that's very possible.
Yeah, they're extremely small population. But UAE does not make the list, huh? Maybe a lot of those people don't actually live there. Because you think of Dubai, you're like, oh man, there must be tons of millionaires in Dubai.
Okay, first of all, I should probably specify The list I was looking at is according to Forbes from April 2023, and it lists a whole total of 77 countries, which is not all countries, but then again, there are also countries that don't have billionaires, most of which are in Africa. Actually, there's a lot in Central America as well. Well, there's a lot of countries. There's also, like, in the Pacific, there's, like, a bunch of countries that just don't have billionaires. So I guess maybe there's just countries that have billionaires. Let's see. United States, Kingdom, Arab Emirates. They are 45th for total number and 40th for per capita. So they're, like, pretty much in the middle of countries that have billionaires. I mean, they might just have, like, a bunch of, like, hundreds of millionaires. They might just... Because it's a somewhat arbitrary cutoff, right? This is not about the wealth of a country, or... the UAE probably has, like, a lot of very rich people, but not quite as many, like, filthy rich people. But, like, I guess they're all filthy rich, but, like, you know...
Yeah.
Like, not like billionaires. It's just 4 billionaires, which makes it about 0.4 per capita. Which also means that they have a population of just about a million. It's 0.427, which means the number there is slightly higher. That means that you have just under a million in population. That's not how that data is meant to be used, but
But yeah, so I actually saw a study that was done at Cornell and Ohio State that said that people tend to idolize single billionaires, especially ones through like a parasocial relationship. The ones that you can actually...
One small question. When you say single, you mean individual, right?
Yes, individual.
And I'm just... Because individual. Single also means not in a relationship, so... I'll just clarify.
Oh, no. I mean, individual billionaires that have like an accessible personality through parasocial relationships, you know, like the Elon Musk or the Rihanna or the Oprah or the Rock, you know, and people like that, if he is even a billionaire now, but I know he's got a ton of money. But people like that, they tend to idolize. But groups of billionaires tend to receive hatred rather than the love that you would get for single people. And it's almost like a cognitive dissonance if you think about it, because we could fall in love with Oprah, but once she becomes part of that Forbes list and there's this giant picture of billionaires on the front of Forbes, people are like, oh, I hate all those people. It's really weird how that psychology plays out. What do you think about that?
I mean, it makes sense to not like billionaires as a concept or as a group. It's a lot harder to dislike people as individuals, just in general, I would say. Additionally, all of the ones that are publicly fairly well known are usually celebrities, right? And people tend to like celebrities. That's just one of those things, right? Parasocial relationships, you mentioned them, which plays very heavily into that. So those are sort of counteracting forces, but I think if you ask someone, right, do you like Oprah? They're not going to think about, oh, she's filthy rich. They're going to think about, like, the entertainment she does, right? They're going to think about her show. And I think it's different. I mean, obviously, they also still have, like, carefully cultivated public personas, which also helps. But you don't really think, especially, like, those sort of more traditional celebrities, you don't tend to think of as, like, millionaires or billionaires first and foremost, but rather as just like those public figures. I think it's different if you maybe ask about Musk or Bezos, as might be a bit more different, because those are businessmen first and foremost, right? They come from like the business side and are just mostly known for being rich. And that's, I think, a bit different, but even then, it's still aspirational for people to a degree, I would say.
I think trying to make sense of the study, though, they were giving an explanation of people tend to look at a single billionaire as that's something I can become. That's something I want to strive for. I like this person because I want to be that person. Whereas groups of billionaires tend to be the evil ones, the elite, the royals, you know, those words are associated with bad people, the people who are controlling the masses due to their extreme wealth. Whereas they're the same people at the end of the day. So I think that in that study, that's the conclusion that they came to, is that we see them differently, even though they are the exact same people. It's just once you group them together, we tend to hate them. Even if you know that, oh, that's Oprah, that's Elon Musk and whatever, you still tend to hate them when they're in a group, because those are the people controlling the world, in a sense, through capitalism and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it's that. It's also that, again, right, the most public-facing of those are, at least as far as we know, not necessarily the most egregious either. I mean, Musk being probably the big exception. But a lot of the sort of like evil billionaires, if you will, are also like intentionally not as public, right? I don't know if they're billionaires, but they're definitely filthy rich, like the Koch brothers, right? I mean, just one these days. But those are sort of like the quintessential like shadowy rich guy figure, where they're just well known enough because of their political contributions that they're seen that way, but otherwise still stay fairly well in the shadows. And honestly, the main reason why they are that well known is because A, they throw around hundreds of millions in campaign contributions, and they made their money with oil, which makes them like one of the most impactful, well, now person, before that people, there's still technically two, but the two that were known as the Koch brothers, one of those is dead. I looked it up earlier today, actually, in preparation of this possibly being a topic. And I remember that there was talk about like, oh, there's just one now, but like technically there's still two Koch brothers, but I think the other one's not as politically active. Point being, being able to spend $400 million on campaign contributions in a single midterm election is a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And you can't deny that must give them outsized influence on politics. Right, because you can vote as much as you want, which is to say once per election, but you can vote consistently, but you still only get one vote, right? And when it comes to like campaign contributions, which then go into advertisements and getting, I mean, I think big part is like TV advertisements and that sort of stuff, but there's also, of course, like actually running a campaign, organizing speeches, booking venues, but like all of that thing, right? Like you're not gonna get the public involved with your campaign without money. Political campaigns are expensive. Like maybe not if you're running for like a city council seat, but if you're running for Senate, like that's gonna be hella expensive. You might be able to get away with maybe running for the House of Representatives in a seat that just doesn't have a lot of candidates. Maybe your preferred party doesn't even run a candidate there. Maybe you can get in the race there. But then if your party doesn't run a candidate, it's probably because they're not going to win anyway, so that sucks. State senates and houses also definitely like a bit more accessible. I mean, I was looking a little bit into the off-year elections this year, right? November 7th. And some of those house seats that were contested, and senate seats as well, I guess, in state legislatures, straight up ran unopposed, right? The Louisiana is interesting because they have the runoff system, and actually their runoffs are on the 18th for some reason. Well, probably lower turnout, but and so it was already decided the exact number of seats that each party got in the Louisiana Senate before the runoffs, because some seats they didn't even run a primary for because there was only one registered candidate, and some seats a candidate got more than 50% in the primary. Okay, that's how that system works, right? In some seats, the top two candidates, and sometimes all of the candidates, were just from one party. It's like, I mean, I get that that's still technically a choice, but like,
yeah,
you're not gonna win the Louisiana Senate if you're only running candidates for like 12 seats.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, that made me think though. Billionaires spending that much money, you talk about the Koch brothers, spending that much money on political campaigns, that is a ton of money. That's enough to fund like your children's entire lives from birth to death, and probably your grandkids too, that you just spent on a political campaign to protect more of your money so much money that you will never use it. Your kids are never going to use that much money. But you need to spend that much money that could go to something else on protecting your business so you can have more money. It doesn't make a lot of sense to a person who's not extremely wealthy. I guess it does make sense to those people somehow, or at least they try to rationalize it. But why do you need so much money that you can't even fathom how many generations ahead it would take to spend it if they never worked a day in their lives?
Yeah.
What do you need it for? What do you need billions for?
I mean, I guess that's always the big question, right? Because
hoarding money, I think, hurts the economy in the long run anyway.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I think that has been suggested where it's like, if we literally just take money away from rich people, right? Like just the billionaires and just burn it, right? Mm-hmm. Or just like that in and of itself would help people, right? It would be better to spend it on social programs, but you don't actually need to.
Yeah.
But just taking the money away from them already helps people because, it reduces inequality. And obviously, if you literally burn it, that probably increases the value of the money that people do have. Like just that in and of itself is already like a good thing, which is wild. But I mean, billionaires have, and I mean, I say billionaires, it's mostly just an arbitrary term, right? Because,
yeah,
I mean, yes, again, right, $1 billion net worth, whatever. But realistically, we're talking about the uber rich. If you have 900 million, you're probably just as bad. And it's political contributions. I mean, again, right, the Koch brothers, or I don't know, I think 2019 is when he died, right? Anyways, whatever, however many brothers it were, spending 400 million on, I mean, it's not a single election, I suppose, in that sense, because obviously there are, like, midterm elections, right? So you have House elections in every state, Senate elections in 33 states approximately. I think it was 34 probably, but whatever. There's usually at least one special. And then there's, like, state level elections and whatnot, but that's a lot of money, as you said, right? And
yes,
that is one of the big and most obvious ways, I think, in which billionaires impact the world. And the fact that, obviously, American campaign finance laws are kind of stupid, and it's not even necessarily entirely the legislature's fault. Because obviously the Supreme Court routinely strikes down limitations on campaign spending and like transparency laws and all of that good stuff that you're supposed to have, to have a functioning democracy. Because apparently campaign contributions are speech, and so, government shall not establish a religion and something about journalism and then free speech. I really should just learn the text of the First Amendment by heart because I feel like it comes up often enough.
I couldn't even tell you the entire thing right off the top, so
I mean,
no big deal.
The First Amendment is freedom of religion, it's freedom of the press, and it's freedom of speech is like I think the main three that are in there. But but yeah. Anyways, so that is kind of a big thing. It's not the only thing though, right? Because just the fact that I can just buy up companies is also huge, right? Because you got the whole like mergers and acquisitions things in terms of building monopolies, which is like a huge issue. Now, in theory, there's regulation against that. In practice, they haven't been very well enforced.
Yeah. Because, well, for one, the government wants to protect people with that much money. I remember during the recession of 2008, we started the bailouts because there were giant bankers. You had like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and whoever else. These companies were losing money. So our government deemed them too big to fail, especially the banks, but also like motor companies, Ford and General Motors and things like that. They were too big to fail, so we needed to protect that money. So we started pumping money into the laps of people who already had billions of dollars because we were afraid these institutions would fail. And it gave birth to this rhetoric because, of course, working class people, I don't want to say poor people, but poor people also, were complaining like, okay, so we're all doing bad right now. Yet the government thinks the best way to bring us out of a recession is by dumping more money into the laps of the people who already have billions. So there was this rhetoric that went around, especially on like the talk radios or whatnot. And it was this sentiment that, have you ever gotten a job from a poor person? Meaning we need those rich people to stay afloat and stay in business so that the poor people still have a job, which is really flawed logic in the end. But that was something they tried to pass off a lot. But I think the worst thing about it was that the poor people, I want to say working class people, I don't want to be too derogatory about it, but people of lower means than rich people, a lot of them bought into it. Was it that funny?
I just the way that sentence went, where it's like people of lower means than rich people. It's like now it's just most people.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't want to be derogatory and just say poor people. But that's pretty much what it is.
Poor people that have less than tens of millions. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure that's the way they look at it for sure.
The 99%, those peasants.
But yeah, so us peasants were the peons over here. We're like, can you just pass that money along to us? But they're like, no, because you don't get jobs from poor people. We need to keep the rich people afloat. And it kind of grew a bigger divide, but there was a lot of poor people who also bought into it, mainly because of political affiliations. You know, if their favorite politician was feeding this rhetoric, they're going to buy into it. And they're like, yeah, you know what? I am super poor, but I've never gotten a job from a poor person. So, yes, we do need to give a ton of money to the people who are already rich. They bought into it. But years later, we see that it has drawn the divide bigger between the lower class and the upper class, and the disdain for upper class people. I just wanted to get that little thing out of the way. I was just thinking of it while you were talking earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a little more complicated than, I mean, the literal thing about, like, again, depending on how we define poor people, I mean, obviously, you probably didn't get a job from a beggar, but, like, small businesses are a thing. I mean, I know corporate America is trying to kill them, but they still exist, right? And so, there will be people that don't make much more money than their employees that do employ people, right? That is a thing.
Yeah.
So, like, first of all, your point, I mean, I know it's not your point, but, like, you know, like, that point doesn't actually have any legs to stand on. I mean, that's the first thing, right? And the second thing, I mean, okay, so the bank bailouts are a bit more complicated because, of course, it was mostly banks. And the problem with the banks is that they have money that belongs to people, right? And so, I think all bank deposits up to a certain amount are insured by default in the US. So, in theory, like
FDIC.
Yeah, so I think everything up to $1 million is protected by default or something. So that is.
It used to be 250,000. I don't mean to cut you off, but it used to be 250,000. I don't think it's up to $1 million. But you go ahead. I'll look that up real quick.
I don't know. I vaguely remember that from when Silicon Valley Bank went belly up. There was talks about that. I don't remember the exact numbers with certainty, but they might have also just raised in 2008. Either way.
Yeah.
So to a degree, of course, you have to protect people's money, right? And so that does presumably mean, at the very least, temporarily giving money to the banks. I can see that, right? But obviously, the idea that most of the banks seemingly went out of it unscathed, while, you know, the banks that literally caused that financial crisis, while regular people got screwed over, obviously sucks, right? And so,
yeah,
the monopoly power, or even just generally consolidation, even if it's not like a monopoly or a duopoly, even if there's like 5 big companies, that still obviously hurts the consumers, sometimes in ways that are hard to see, but it does hurt both the consumer and the worker, which, I mean, realistically, I'm the same person anyways, but, you know, it hurts the people that don't own those companies, which is most people. And so that's obviously another way that I was getting at, that billionaires are bad, right? Because of like the consolidation of companies.
Yeah, absolutely. Monopolies for sure. And yes, it is 250,000 still as of March of 2023.
Okay, fair enough.
Apparently.
I probably
So
just
it's been 200.
I probably just had like an order of magnitude in the back of my head and went with the round number.
Oh yeah. It's been $250,000 for 30, 40 years at least.
Well, I mean, I'm neither that old nor American, so that's kind of something that.
Well, I'm saying that, don't you think it should go up by now? I mean, just purely through inflation, shouldn't they be at least insuring double that by this point? I don't know.
I don't have a strong opinion on that, because realistically, most of the people that I was going to say I care about, right, like, don't have 250 million in the bank account anyways.
That's what I was going to say, too.
It's like,
most Americans don't have $250,000, so it don't really matter, I guess. Obviously, it would be only those rich people who take the hit.
There's a thing where you have to look at a little bit also at corporate accounts, because if a bank goes under, you can have the problem where all of a sudden companies can't pay their employees because their bank account was at that bank. And so there are situations where it should be higher, probably.
Yeah.
I also think there could probably be some regulation that would be responsive to that. But frankly, the details of bank insurance are probably not really the sticking point of this particular topic.
There was one more thing. Go ahead. If you got a point, go ahead.
I had a next more or less unrelated point, so if you had something to say about what we were talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just going to make one more point before we move on to the next segment. There's also this thing that people tend to believe that millionaires just work harder than the average person. So we tend to idolize millionaires over billionaires because billionaires tend to be lucky. But I can't remember who it was. I saw a video not too long ago where he broke it down. It may have been D. I forgot the name of that channel. D something. But anyway, he said that the science actually shows that being even a millionaire or a billionaire is more due to luck than actually hard work. Because even if you are an extremely hard worker, everything has to fall in place for you to end up gaining that much wealth. That, you know, you could take anybody off the street and, you know, they could work 100 hours a week. Doesn't mean, 100. Yeah, I'm sorry. 100 hours a week. It doesn't mean they're going to make it to millionaire status at any time in their life. So lots of things have to absolutely fall in place for you to become a millionaire. But people tend to idolize millionaires and think that, they just work harder than the rest of us.
Yeah.
But that's...
A lot of it isn't even just luck in the sense of they happen to be at the right place at the right time. A lot of it, oftentimes, not always, but most of the time, is also generational wealth, right? Even a lot of these so-called self-made millionaires actually had rich parents, or at the very least, like high upper middle class parents, but oftentimes straight up rich parents. And it's like, oh no, I built this entire business myself, and then, you know, it's the whole thing, like, I built this business in a garage, and then, you know, the whole, like, with a small loan of $1 million, thing where, like, you know, your Amazons, your, eBay, so like all of those is like, oh yeah, Elon Musk, right? Self-made millionaire, except that his dad owned an emerald mine in South Africa. Yeah, no, that, and his mother was a supermodel or something, well, a model, I don't know how, anyways, right? So like, no, he had like 2 rich and successful parents. He had money, and the thing he's most famous for is having a stake in eBay, I think it was. No, PayPal, sorry. In PayPal, when that went, like, through the roof, and it's like, yeah, he had that because PayPal acquired a company that he previously owned, which I think may or may not have been called X at that point in time. He is still trying to use that company name, obviously. And he happened to have a stake in that company, but even there, he didn't have anything to do with the technical side, as far as I know. He was more of an investor, really. He was an early investor in Tesla. He wasn't even technically a founder in the sense that he wasn't there when it was founded. He is also technically a founder in as far as being a founder doesn't always mean having founded the company because stupid corporate bullshit. But it's like all he's done is invest money into successful companies and probably some not so successful ones, but you don't hear about those. And then he bought Twitter, which
absolutely.
I guess was my final point, right? Where Elon Musk buying Twitter is not something that's going to profit Tesla or SpaceX or anything like that, right? This is not like a industry consolidation move. But the fact that a guy who has the time spent called the richest man in the world, I don't know if he's the richest, but he's definitely top 5, right? Can just buy a major communications platform and just completely change the moderation rules single-handedly. Is worrying. Now, Twitter is not actually that popular in terms of social media, but does have an outsized influence with political figures and journalists, meaning it has an outsized influence on our society, even though it has a fairly low user number. So that is actually really worrying. As a matter of fact, media in general, right? Like, the fact that, like, Jeff Bezos bought, like, a fairly big newspaper at one, but I forget which one, but... And also, people have shown that shortly after he bought them, they ended up running a lot of very positive things about Amazon. Now, supposedly, he didn't have any editorial control, but it does certainly look suspicious. Which is one of those things. So, just like the fact that they can just take over something, and I mean, I talked about the Koch brothers earlier, but similarly, Rupert Murdoch, right? The guy owns Fox News, which, I mean, the whole news in the title is a bit questionable, he said. Anyways, and a bunch of other publications as well. I think Fox is just the big one, at least in the US. But it's like, that is the most watched cable television network in the country. Right? It is huge with, like, I mean, it's almost synonymous in some ways with the Republican Party in that, in as far as Fox News, not just the Republican Party and the Republicans, nudge Fox News, and so, like, they are almost always in lockstep. Not 100% always, but most of the time. And so it's like, the fact that, like, one guy owns the company that, like, affects the opinions of, like, a quarter of the population or something, whether directly or indirectly, is also kind of worrying. And so, like, that whole thing where they have outside control politically, they have, like, the corporate side in terms of just, like, you know, the fact that if you want to buy something online, chance are you go to Amazon is also stupid. Right? And then the third one is just that, like, directly they can, maybe not strictly speaking control what information you get, but they certainly have an outsized influence on what information you get.
That is scary.
None of that is good.
No, not at all. Because not only do they affect the entire economy by hoarding money, their influence is vast because of their vast amounts of wealth. Yeah, I'd say in general, billionaires are bad. How do we fix it, though? That's the question. Like, how do we fix it? Do we set a limit on wealth? Like worldwide? Okay,
worldwide is impossible, obviously. You'd have to do that in any given jurisdiction, which means that obviously creates other problems.
Eventually, I don't know, there's going to be a one world government, though.
But I think, the US has the single largest number of billionaires. As a matter of fact, just by rough back-of-the-napkin math, it's over a quarter of the world's billionaires live in the United States. So, I think that would be a good place to start in general. I mean, obviously, all countries probably should do something like that, especially Western countries. But I think, just like taxes, it has been suggested that we just take 100% of everything you make after a certain number. I'm against that. But I could see it being 99. The reason being, you don't want to actively incentivize people, like, to try to stop making money. I think that just because of how a capitalist economy works, I think having some incentive to make more money might make sense. It's not 100% sure, but it might make sense. But yeah, raising tax rates, right? And also, for God's sake, the tax rate on stocks, I forget what the exact term for it is, but there's a specific type of tax that's like not income tax, but it is for like, you know, if you sell stocks and stuff like that, which is lower than the regular income rate, which is stupid. The regular income tax, which is stupid.
Yeah.
Because that's rich people shit, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like, why is rich people income taxed lower than regular people income, right? Like, that's what I was going to say is that, I mean, first of all, our tax code is so ridiculously complicated that you have to be a mathematician to even figure it out in the first place. But from what I understand is that you can be super rich and figure out a way through the tax code to not pay any taxes whatsoever. You can actually work it out in your favor. Whereas working class people don't have that luxury. They have to pay a certain amount of taxes. If you're a single adult, it's usually like 20 to 23%. Whereas if you're super rich, you can get away with paying no taxes through ridiculous tax. I don't want to say cheats, but it's part of the tax code. It's part of the law. But we've made it to where they can get away with it. Yeah, I think.
Whereas they should be paying more taxes.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
I think the way that oftentimes works is that CEOs, for example, get paid in stocks, and then you only have to pay taxes once you sell the stocks, and then they take out loans with the stocks as collateral at like a fairly low interest rate, and so then that is cheaper than paying income tax on liquidating those stocks, and so they basically, that's actually an interesting thing, right? Because people that live like their entire life around loans are either really rich or really poor, right? Because most of the, I mean, in America with credit cards, maybe not exactly, but you know, normally it's like you either take out a loan because you don't have any money and you need the money, or because you are so rich that it actually is just cheaper to take out a loan than to pay your goddamn taxes.
yeah, exactly. Also, like IRAs, like savings accounts, you know, you can transfer money back and forth between those two without ever paying taxes on them. It's some kind of loophole.
Yeah, I don't know enough about that, but yeah, no, generally I think we should obviously tighten the tax codes in general so that there aren't any loopholes. And the highest tax bracket should be fairly high. And then again, wealth taxes to some degree might also be plausible. By the way, I remember the argument about the whole like take money from rich people is that if you raise the top income tax brackets, then it's less incentivized to make profit from your company like directly, which means that if you don't make as much profit, or if you're not as involved to make a profit, then you can reinvest the money instead, because you don't have to pay any taxes if you reinvest the money. So if you raise the taxes on corporations, they don't go as much for immediate profit, but rather go for growing the businesses, which actually ends up profiting the economy more than if they just try to make as much money to a small number of people. That I think was the argument that I remembered vaguely before, where like you just set the incentives differently. So even if you don't spend that money on anything as the government, that still is beneficial. And obviously you can spend it on things like social security programs. Also, of course, the flip side, right? A good social security net is very helpful as well, but that's not really the main point, because right now we're talking not about how to make the world more equal, but just how to like curb the influence of billionaires.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think taxes is a big one, and the other one is, again, campaign finance laws, right? That's a big one. And then antitrust. Where, hey, maybe mergers should be blocked if they are a problem. Which, I mean, to be fair, the FTC has gotten a little bit more active under that. Under the Biden administration with Lina Khan as the head of the FTC, they have gotten better than they were before. Dare I say they could still do more, but, you know, then also, then they have to get the budget to be able to afford to do that, and the Republicans control the House, so, you know, that's...
And Republicans tend to be in favor of monopolies. But I've actually seen a few companies get hit with having to give back portions of companies that they bought because of the monopoly law.
Yeah, I think most of what you see recently is just that a merger is about to happen, and like the FTC and similar national agencies in other countries sometimes as well, if there's an international company, which most of them are, like have like some things where it's like, oh, this doesn't look right, and then the companies make some small concessions, and then are merging anyways, and it's like, oh yeah, I think the Activision Blizzard King was bought up by Microsoft, right? And that is one that I happened to like be up to date on a bit more because, you know, gaming stuff. So and that was like, oh yeah, the UK had some concerns about cloud gaming, so they ended up selling off the European rights to their cloud gaming to like a third company for like, I think it was even just like a contract for like the next decade or something like that. So it's not even permanently. And then in a similar situation, there was like Sony was complaining about, oh, what if they make Call of Duty exclusive to the PlayStation? And so to like assuage those concerns, they had like a 5-year contract with Sony that they're definitely going to keep Call of Duty on the PlayStation. And it's like just like those things where it's like, it doesn't really prevent the merger or like the consolidation that much, but they're sort of minimizing the immediate impact of it to a degree, and that's like about the biggest thing. Although the FTC supposedly, even though the merger is technically through at this point, I think they still want to challenge it after the fact, which, you know, we'll see about that. They also look into Amazon, so like they are supposedly working on stuff, but haven't really seen a lot of results.
Oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think does that wrap up the topic?
Or? Yeah, I believe so.
Are we moving on? All right.
What is our fact of the week?
Oh, fact of the week. Let me bring it up here. People used to say prunes instead of cheese when getting their photos taken. In the 1840s, a cheesy grin was seen as childish. So a London photographer told people to say prunes to keep their mouths nice and tight. Now you know why people never smiled in old photos. I found that actually kind of surprising that people did not like smiling in photos before somewhere around the 20th century, I guess it would be. I don't know. I didn't see when exactly that changed, but pretty fascinating that people thought photos should not be or you shouldn't be smiling in photos back then.
Yeah, I think it goes back to portraits, right? Because portraits usually are also more serious, and a photo is just a photo portrait, right? So that's... I think there was an interesting story that I seen where like someone with a camera went to I think like China or something, like somewhere in East Asia, I think it was, and photographed people, and like they were all like smiling and posing and stuff like that. Meanwhile, in Europe, like from the same era, you had a bunch of like those like more like portrait poses, serious faces, and it's like because they weren't instructed on how to act, they just acted naturally. Where in Europe they had like this whole tradition they were building on that sort of informed how they looked. So I was vaguely aware of that. I didn't know the prunes thing specifically, but the more serious nature.
And being the 1840s, that would have been around the time that cameras, flash photography was first being used also. So yeah, it probably did come from portraits. They were probably telling them like, you know, we need the same pose you would use for a portrait, also, you know, for your photos.
Also, you have to stand still, right? Not as long as for a portrait, but photography, you have to hold the pose for a while, right? Like otherwise the picture gets smeared because they had long exposure times. Which actually, fun thing about that, sometimes you would see family photos where like everyone's faces are like ever so slightly blurry, except for like one or two children on there. Like you have like a child there that is like perfectly still, that like is perfectly crisp. Apparently, it used to be a tradition that sometimes you would take pictures with someone who'd recently died. So, like, if a child died, they would take a family picture with the child. And so, the reason why the child isn't smudged is because the child was dead.
They're dead.
And so they weren't moving.
Yes.
Sorry that I've ruined old pictures for everyone.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those photos. It comes up in those, like, creepy lists or whatever, or creepy photos from history or whatever.
Some that I've heard, I'm assuming it's true, but I haven't fact-checked that. What I have fact-checked, though, is my fact of the week. Haha. See how that goes. And that is, you know what? Let me ask you this as a question. Why is 7-Eleven called 7-Eleven?
I always thought it was because of the hours they were open.
Yep.
Like 7 days a week, 11 hours a day?
No. It is 7 days a week, but that's not why the 7 is in there. They used to run from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Ah, okay.
So just 7 to
gotcha.
11. So they renamed to 7-Eleven when they changed, or shortly after they changed their store hours to 7 to 11. Of course, after that, they eventually became 24/7. Not as a name, but as a operating hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess 11 hours wouldn't be that much considering if they ran from 7 to 11, what is that, 14, 15 hours? Something like that?
That is 16, yeah.
16, yeah. Yeah, so it wouldn't make much sense to only be open 11 hours. I bet if you go back far enough in time, stores were only open for 11 to 12 hours a day, though.
Yeah, I don't know when supermarkets open in Germany, but I know that sometimes, I think especially in winter, they close a bit earlier. I forget, it's somewhere between like 8 to 10 when they close usually. So like, and so it could be possible that they also open later. I mean, you know, in Germany, it's not like in the US, right? Supermarkets close on Sundays, you know, you have close at night. It's great. I mean, I suppose it's more convenient, like, as a shopper if it isn't, but like, you know, from like a worker standpoint, which you also have to consider, it's good. Also, from like a traffic standpoint, it's probably better. So actually, I don't know. I don't know. It's
only been the past, probably since around late 90s to 2000s that things around Atlanta started staying open 24 hours. I feel like before that, things would close once it got dark. But around the 90s into the 2000s, everything started becoming 24 hours. At least the big shopping centers and whatnot.
I mean, in some ways, it kind of just shows how underpaid workers are in America, right? Because how can the business possibly be profitable in the middle of the night? Right? You don't get that many customers.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got this giant warehouse Walmart open at 2 a.m. and there's like 3 customers in there. Like, what's the point?
But yeah, no, I mean, the Sundays one I think is literally what I was saying with traffic, right? Where it's like, Sundays just are a bit calmer in that sense because, you know, stores are closed. Like, restaurants are open, but pretty much everything else is closed on Sundays in Germany. Also, public holidays.
Oh, yeah. We don't really... I mean, smaller businesses will close on holidays, but, you know, the big businesses always stay open.
Yeah, anyways, halftime show. We're, once again, playing Hurdle Decades. You want to go back all the way to the 50s and start there?
Woo, we can try it, man. It's going to be tough, but we can try it.
For the uninitiated, we have to guess the song. Is that the SpongeBob SquarePants theme?
No. That is Hank Williams, Hey Good Looking.
Well, I did not expect you to just get that in one, but here we are.
I did not expect to get something from the 50s for sure.
How about the 60s?
All right. Okay, that's not as familiar.
Yeah, I'm afraid it might be early 60s, you know, before rock and roll was a big thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, no. Not familiar yet. Nope, not a clue.
I mean, it seems vaguely nice and calming, but...
Yeah. Does have a vaguely familiar...
Like, are we sure it's the 1960s and not the 1760s?
It does, yeah. It does. It does not sound like the 60s at all. Wish I could hear some vocals or something. Ah. Is this not Elton John? Like Candle in the Wind or something?
I don't think it's literally Candle in the Wind, but it could be Elton John. Or not?
It's just... Oh, did they not have any Elton John?
We don't have any Elton John, although I'm not 100% sure. I mean, when
maybe
was
it was
Elton
more
John?
70s.
Because I genuinely didn't know. I was thinking like piano, Elton John. That sounds like something, but
late 60s, early 70s. But apparently, if he's not on there, it can't be him.
Well, let's listen to the whole thing and see if we get anything.
All right. I know that tune somehow. Oh, I know this. Like Elvis or something. I don't know.
Well, we got a lot of Elvis Presley. A lot.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is so much Elvis that there might be more. Because there's a limited number of ones in the preview.
Tons of Elvis, huh?
Well, it's not in the ghetto. I'm pretty sure it's not Viva La Vegas.
No.
Viva Las Vegas.
Nah.
I don't think it's Can't Help Falling in Love. I wouldn't be able to tell you about the other ones.
What are the other ones?
Wooden Heart, Stuck on You, Suspicious Minds, It's Now or Never,
No.
Are You Lonesome Tonight, The Girl of My Best Friend, and Rameriz the Name, His Latest Flame.
Okay, some of those I am not familiar with, so... I don't know.
Suspicious Minds sounds familiar, but I couldn't place it right now, and the other ones I didn't know.
I don't think it's Suspicious Minds. Yeah, I definitely don't think it's Suspicious Minds. Yep, I have no clue.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna let it reveal it to us.
Yeah.
It's Henry Mancini? I don't know.
Oh.
Theme from Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, maybe that's why it sounded
It
familiar.
sure sounded like it was the theme from Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, sounded like it was written at the same time that
Shakespeare
was right.
That's what I was thinking as well. It's like... Sure sounds like Shakespeare commissioned that one.
Yeah.
Let's get us some disco. It's the 70s.
All right. Oh, that does sound familiar. Can't place it, though. Not right. Not yet.
It does sound familiar, doesn't it?
Yes.
I think I'm going to listen to it again, and then I'll see. I didn't get it from just that, like... God!
No,
it sounds less familiar now.
Is this actually... Was this under disco, or is it just 70s?
No, it's 70s.
Okay.
I just inferred from the fact that it was the 70s that it's fairly likely to be disco.
I don't think it is disco, though.
I mean, it didn't have to be.
Yeah.
I still don't get anything. I did already click +1, but... If I know it, I need more. How about you?
Yeah, I definitely need more. Oh, man. Man. What could this be? I feel like I've heard this before, but I can't really think of what it is. I'm expecting there to be a Hispanic singer, though, for some reason.
Okay. I don't have anything. Let's listen to more.
All right. Still don't know. Oh, come on. I was hoping there would be some vocals in that.
Well, I mean, there was na 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 na. I mean, I don't know, maybe. No, that was a joke. I guess this is the whole thing. I don't think... Like, at first, it sounded more familiar than it does now.
Yeah. The accordion kind of took me out of it.
That was enlightening.
That's all they're gonna give us. Yeah, I don't have a clue.
Yeah, I'm also on skip here. The George Baker selection with Morning Sky.
Okay, I would have never gotten that one. You could have probably given me the whole song. I wouldn't have gotten that one.
Well, I guess it's time to move on to the 80s.
Yes. Somehow I have this new hope every time we start a new song, and then it fades quickly. I guess give us some more.
I got nothing.
Nope, not a clue. This is one where we're going to need some vocals to even have a chance. And we're probably not going to get it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound familiar to me.
No.
Well, that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
You wanted vocals, you didn't get any.
No, not at all. I mean, this could be anything from like Tina Turner to the Eurythmics or something. I don't know. Not a clue.
Yeah, Did Eurythmics even have multiple songs? I don't know. I no idea.
Yeah.
Electronic? I wouldn't have guessed. No, that's actually the artist's name. Getting Away With It.
Yeah, I don't know that I know that song.
How about the 90s?
All right.
Sure sounded like a movie soundtrack kind of thing, but I...
It does. Yes, it sounded like a movie rather than a hit song.
Well, sometimes movies become hits, songs become hits because they were movies. So, you know.
True. Very true.
Let's skip and listen to that again.
Oh my god. This feels like one of those songs where it's going to do this through the entire thing.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to be a ballad or something, which means it's probably going to have a slow start, which, unless there happens to be early singing, is going to be very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming you got nothing?
Nothing. Is this Backstreet Boys?
It could have been almost just from the sound of it, right? Backstreet Boys. Larger Than Life, I don't think so. I Want It That Way, definitely not. As Long As You Love Me, All I Have to Give. We've Got It Going On. Everybody Backstreet's Back. No, that's not it. I'll Never
No.
Break Your Heart and Quit Playing Games with My Heart, which I don't think it is either.
What was the first one again?
Larger Than Life. I don't think so.
You don't.
I don't know.
Remember how that would have started, but maybe it started slow and then then it.
That's the
dropped
danger,
into
right?
a
Like it could be most. I'm pretty sure I'm like 99% certain that's not I Want It That Way. That's one that I know fairly well, comparatively speaking. But most of the other ones, I like even the ones like Quit Playing Games with My Heart, Everybody, and Larger Than Life that I know. Everybody.
I can't think of how that.
Back. All right. I don't know how it starts.
Yeah, that's the problem. The vocals absolutely sounded like it could be Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or one of those, but I don't know how most of the songs start off.
I mean, I could just pick a random one out of the ones that I don't know. It has
might as well.
Biggest chance that it was Because of You by 98 Degrees.
Oh, I knew it was a boy band.
I'm assuming that's Fahrenheit because otherwise that is damn near boiling.
Yeah.
That was in the 90s, so we're already going to 2000s, which were already like leaving my area of expertise, and I didn't get a single one so far, so that's great.
Hey, the only thing I got is the only one I thought I wouldn't get.
I swear I clicked on it. 1 sec, let me quickly switch away here, see if it's... It just doesn't want to load. What the fuck?
Oh.
Let me...
Is that the one we always have a problem with?
No. I don't think we ever had a problem where it didn't load. I think usually it was that... Sometimes like if you were on the site for a specific decade, the player wouldn't load. But we've never had the page just straight up not... Like even if I refresh the main page, it just doesn't load. It's almost like I don't have internet, which I clearly do since we're on a,
We're still talking, so...
Okay, let's see. The site refresh finally happened. Oh yeah, there we are. 2000s.
Where's all my soul sister?
Hey, that's Moulin Rouge. Marmalade. Type in Moulin Rouge.
Is it Moulin like that? Rouge?
Voulez-vous coucher ce soir? Ce soir? Voulez-vous coucher ce soir?
Okay, that's Christina Aguilera, Lil Kim,
Creole.
Mia and Pink.
Creole.
Voulez-vous coucher avec...
that's it.
What?
Yeah.
Voulez-vous coucher
Voulez-vous
avec moi ce soir? I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be avec, right? With a C.
Yes.
It says avec with a...
Where's all my
Yep.
soul sister?
That's the one.
Yes, that's it. Will you sleep with me tonight?
Yes.
Roughly translated.
Pretty much exactly translated, yes.
Yeah. I'm not that fluent in French.
Yeah, I'm alright. 2010s. It's the final decade we got, but there's one extra thing we wanted to try out, but we'll get there when we get there.
Mm-hmm. Caught in a trap. That is Elvis. Can't walk out. That is Suspicious Minds. Wait, what year was that?
2010s.
Play that. Play that again.
I thought it might be a cover, but I don't...
Yeah.
Could be a sample.
Okay. Yeah, it must be. Or it's just something that sounds really close to that.
Because it's not a cover, because I typed in Suspicious and it didn't... Unless I just grossly mistyped it, which I suppose that was an option. It didn't come up.
Maybe it is a sample, like a Fatboy Slim sample or something, because I know they did a lot of Elvis samples in their music.
It's either something that just sounds similar, or it's a sample.
Probably just sounds
similar.
similar.
It's not a straight up cover.
Yeah.
And I don't...
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know. I was going to say, I don't think Elvis released any new music in the 2010s, but I think he might actually have. There was that one song... There was that one duet he sang with his daughter, where, like...
Oh, yeah.
There was, like, some vocals that he had recorded, and then she
Yeah.
sang a second voice for it, and then that was released.
Yeah,
I think that might have been in the 10s.
Yeah.
But
and they released the whole album. It was like Elvis 1 or something. Elvis #1 or something, or whatever it was.
I love that if you type in Elvis, it's just a bunch of Calvin Harris. Because every song title, almost mandatorily, has an E somewhere in there, right? And then because he has the LVI and then the S at the end, it's... Yeah, no, we don't. We don't have no Elvis, but yeah. I guess we're gonna skip
hear
that
a little more. I swear that sounds like it, though.
It sounds vaguely familiar to me, which, I mean, granted, but...
Yeah, we need more.
It's just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, not helping.
My house in Budapest, my hidden treasure chest. Go.
Is this what's his name? Mayer? Not familiar with a lot of this style of music.
Oh, you mean Mayer as in more like this, right?
Meyer?
There's like a million different ways to spell this last name. Technically, those are all, at least in German, ways to spell. I thought when you said mayor as in like, you know, like in charge of a city kind of mayor.
Like mayor.
I was like, huh?
No.
The worst part is I definitely have heard the song before, but it might have been one that I've only heard on the radio, which means I might not actually know the title or artist.
Yeah, I was thinking John Mayer. I don't know that that's him. But he does that style of singing. So.
We got no John Mayer in here, unless he's a John without an H. I don't think so.
John.
Yeah, so
Mayer.
I mean, it doesn't matter, right? I type in John M, and the only ones that come up is John Martin and John Newman.
Oh. Okay. Oh.
So,
guess it's not him then.
That's the kind of same conclusion that I reached. Yes.
No clue.
I think the only shot that I would have is if we listen to this either again or probably optimally the whole thing, and maybe I come up with like the chorus lyrics or something, and then those are the title. That's about as far as.
Yeah. Let's try it again.
My house in Budapest, my hidden treasure chest. Golden grand piano, my beautiful Castillo, you. Ooh.
Yeah. Something about you that comes up a lot. You. That's probably in no times at all. Actually,
you know what? You know what you should look up is Budapest.
Budapest. Oh, George Ezra, Budapest. Okay, that could be.
There it is. That's got to be it.
Yep. Okay, I did not think that I was... I mean, that was already in the snippet that we listened to, like, with, like, 5 seconds to go.
Yeah.
I just hadn't pieced together that was going to be the title. You know, that's... Okay, one more thing.
Yeah.
If it loads. This is brand new. Oh, no, wait, these are the upcoming ones. Brand new. Rolling Stones.
All right.
I don't think there is...
Hope we don't get some deep cuts.
My worry was a completely different one, which is hopefully this doesn't get claimed, but I think it's really more so just the Beatles. I think the Stones are a bit more chill.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds familiar, but I can't immediately place it.
It's not a Honky Tonk Woman, is it? I know didn't we have Honky Tonk Woman last time?
I don't think so. I mean, it's an option. I mean, before we don't guess anything.
Yeah, try it.
Nope.
Yeah, okay. Does sound familiar, though.
Yeah, it sounds familiar, but I don't think it's any of those that are in my like regular listening rotation, which means that you might well not know the title, which is bad.
Yeah. Let's get a little more, see if we can get some lyrics out of it. Definitely during their blues phase with all that harmonica, though.
Well, to be fair, they brought out an entire blues album in 2016, I think, so...
Yeah.
Oh god, I didn't even think about it. It could be like one of those as well, right? Where it's like, they covered a bunch of blues songs, I think, in 2016.
Yeah.
And so it's an entire album full of covers, so I might know the song, but not that version.
That and their ventures into psychedelic blues back in the 60s also.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like, it could literally be from 2016, which is not great, because I wasn't really keeping up with their career at that point. Well, I mean, I was never keeping up with their career, I suppose, because most of the songs of theirs that I like came out before I was born.
Yeah, me too. Before I was even born.
And that means something. Sorry.
Hey, I'm a millennial, damn it.
Well, I'm Gen Z.
Yes.
Well, I guess the only option is to listen to the whole thing, right?
Yes. Nope, I don't have it.
I think this might actually be a song that either is a cover or was famously covered, because I'm pretty sure I know, like, the rhythm of it, but I want to say it sounds slightly different. I want to say maybe not quite as heavy. Like maybe the harmonica is a little bit clearer, like something like, like the
Yeah, I mean, it has a familiar tone to it, but there's no way I'll ever guess it without seeing the title.
I don't think I'm going to get it, but this is one that this might actually annoy me because I don't get it, but... Just Your Fool. And I do believe that is the cover from the... Let me actually look that up real quickly. Not Your Fool. Just Your Fool. I love how I just read it out, and it's like a single by Buddy Johnson and his orchestra, released 1954. And it's also a single by the Rolling Stones from the album Blue and Lonesome from October 6th, 2016.
Okay, you were right then.
I was right then.
It was a cover off of the Blues album. Yes.
I suspect, I don't know that for a fact, but I suspect that I've never heard this version of the song. And I've probably heard the original, like, I don't know, like, maybe half a dozen times at most, right? So, it's probably one of those. It sounded familiar.
I feel like I've probably heard the original, but definitely not the Rolling Stones version. But I would have to listen to the entire song to even know if I've heard it.
Yeah, but it
sounded... But that harmonica piece does sound familiar.
Yeah. And it sounded almost like it was slightly off at one point, where I was like, I don't think it's supposed to sound like that, but no, who's to say?
Oh, yeah.
Which brings us to the second topic. We're doing Would You Rathers again. We're probably going to go through these a little bit quickly because we've been going for quite a while already, but let's see.
Yeah.
Would you rather have whatever you say become real or whatever you think become real?
Well, since sometimes you can't control your thoughts, you probably would rather go with say.
That is exactly what I thought. Now, I'm not the greatest at controlling what I say, but I do think that that's probably still something that you could control better. Also, just noticed, It almost looks like we're doing like a yin and yang thing with my, well, technically gray, but still fairly light-colored hoodie, and then your black shirt, and then sitting over the respective backgrounds. So yeah, say is
the wore white.
Obvious answer.
Yeah.
75% of people said say. And yes, I did forget to adjust this so that we can see it, but I don't know how to do it on the fly, so we're not going to do it. Would you rather never need to sleep or never need to eat?
Oh, never need to eat. I don't know. Like, what's the downside of either?
Well, sleeping costs you about 8 hours a day. Eating about
True.
1 in total.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe more if you actually make your own
but
food, but
sleep is free, whereas eating costs something.
I mean, if you never need to sleep, you could probably, if you wanted to, just like have 4 extra hours of free time and 4 extra hours of work time. So in terms of like opportunity cost, I think you still get much more than your daily caloric intake in terms of like your grocery bill versus the amount of money you could make by just working more if you do that instead of sleeping.
Yeah, true. Let's go with sleep.
70-30. 70% for sleep. I just think that the extra time is worth a lot.
Yeah, I guess.
Would you rather have to poop every 35 minutes or have to pee every 35 minutes? Is that even a question?
Yeah, I would rather pee.
It's so much more practical. First of all, given how much water I drink, that's barely a change.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like at least once an hour in a regular day.
I mean, okay, nights are going to suck, obviously. You probably need a diaper. But if it's like every 35 minutes, like, but still, right? Like a diaper solves the peeing problem fairly well. The pooping one, I don't know, poopy diapers don't sound pleasant. Haven't worn one in,
especially if,
I don't know, like over 2 decades.
Especially if it's every 35 minutes, you're gonna fill that thing up quick.
Yeah, I mean, peeing. Okay, first of all, we're guys. The world is our toilet, and second of all, I mean, just in general, right? Like, it's just so much easier to deal with.
Absolutely.
Oh God, 92% said pee and 8% said poo.
I want to know who are those 8%. Like, there's no way. That should have been 100%.
I don't know. I'm sure at least some percent of the population is into it, but probably not 8. I sure hope not 8.
Maybe.
Would you rather have only one hand or only one leg?
One hand.
Depends on the hand. Okay.
I mean, you could at least be more mobile with 2 legs.
Okay, so a couple of things that I was thinking of. First of all, losing my right hand would probably be quite the impediment. I mean, even typing like left hand is still fairly relevant for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about the fact that prosthetics are getting better as well, right? So
True.
Legs might be easier to replace, right? Because you never, like, modern hand prosthetics still usually don't have the same degree of manual dexterity. Literally.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, you would have to think that hand is probably less burdensome, but
yeah.
This one is honestly not as easy as it seems at first glance, but I think I'll also take hand.
Yeah.
54-46. 54 for hand.
Yeah.
That was a close one.
Almost. Mm-hmm.
I think I had this with Hollywood recently. You can fly, but only in the cardinal directions, cannot go up or down 15 feet above ground, or you can teleport, but only within a, and I love this, 1.6 kilometer, in parentheses, 1 mile radius. Okay, 2 things. First of all, this answer says feet, and doesn't give the conversion for metric. It's about 5 meters, a little under. It's like 4.5 maybe. Pretty much a little over 4.5, like 4.5, 4.6. And this says 1.6 kilometers in parentheses 1 mile, as if the question wasn't clearly written with miles in mind, and then converted to metric. Like, you don't just randomly come up with 1.6 kilometers.
That is pretty weird. You would think they would have said 1 mile, parentheses.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Kilometers.
Now,
yeah.
I'm assuming this was written by an American who was like, okay, wait, most of the world uses the metric system, and so it makes sense to lead with a metric number in theory. But A, this also has imperial distances in it. And B, given the numbers you chose...
Alright, so... Oh, excuse me. Teleporting within a 1 mile radius doesn't do a lot of good for you. Unless you can do it back to back to back.
Right? That's what
very quickly.
That's what I said last time. It's like, you just teleport a mile, and then you teleport another mile.
Yeah. That's the only way you could really get any use out of that.
Also, flying, if you can't go up and down, might as well just be walking, but higher.
Yeah, true. So it is a tough one. Maybe the teleporting, though.
I would say teleporting, definitely. First of all, if you can chain them, the limits don't matter. Second of all,
yeah.
Even if you can't chain them, it sounds like it might be able to like get you through walls and shit. I mean, it sounds dangerous. I don't know how that works if you don't have line of sight about like colliding with things, but that would also be very useful. Whereas flying is a very limited use.
Oh yeah, and if you're in a dangerous situation, it may be very helpful to get out of there very quickly.
84% said teleport, by the way, and 16 flying.
Makes sense.
Let's do this one and one more, and then call this topic a day. Would you rather be the smartest, but everyone hates you, or be the stupidest, but everyone loves you?
The fact is, I've been in rooms where both of those scenarios have happened to me. It just depends, you know. I've hung out with polar opposites before.
I don't think I've been in either, strictly speaking. But I've definitely been the smartest in the room and had people be at best ambivalent to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always guaranteed to have been the stupidest in the room at some point. I mean, I'm the stupidest in the room now. Ha ha ha. This is a joke about the fact that I'm alone in this room.
Yes, exactly.
But obviously, I don't know, like, was it like an actual number of people? Hard to say. But I've definitely never been surrounded by more intelligent people that all loved me. I mean, what do you mean by everyone and what do you mean by hate? I mean, I guess everyone is a pretty straightforward definition, but Jesus.
I feel like if I went to a quantum physics seminar, I don't know that everyone would just love me. So it's kind of hard to fathom that scenario.
Also,
to where you just walk in and everybody's like, "Oh, we love you, you idiot."
I mean, okay, if we take this at the most literal, I would have to pick smartest and everyone hates you, even though I don't like the idea of literally everyone hating me.
Yeah. But
if you take smartest and stupidest at their most literal, then stupidest definitely isn't like the intellectual disability territory.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that... I mean, I don't know what it's like to live like that, but it's not something I would want for myself.
Wouldn't be fun, I imagine.
Also, being the smartest, then again, the smartest person in the world, also that's gotta come with some perks, right? Like, it's gotta be useful.
Yeah. I don't know, but if you are the dumbest person, then maybe you don't even realize how bad of a time you're having.
Yeah, I understand that intellectually, but I
yeah, but once you experience intellect, yes, it's hard to go back. Let's go with the smartest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not the smartest person in the world, but 49% of people did smartest and 51% did stupidest.
That's okay. It was a tough decision for everyone.
This one is stupid. Well, I mean, it could have been an easy decision, but people just happened to decide differently. But yeah. Would you rather have infinite knowledge or be omnipotent?
If you were omnipotent, wouldn't you have infinite knowledge?
Not necessarily, but I believe you should be able to give yourself infinite knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I guess I will go with omnipotent then.
I mean, the only argument you could possibly make is that if you have infinite knowledge, that might lead you to be able to exploit that in such a way that you can effectively make yourself omnipotent. But if you're omnipotent, you should guaranteed be able to give infinite knowledge. So,
yeah. The only limitations would be if there is not.
52% said knowledge, and 48 said omnipotent.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like one would lead to the other in either direction. So,
I mean, I don't think that true omnipotence would be possible. So, I think
technically,
infinite knowledge
right?
could make you powerful enough in a real sense to basically be omnipotent, but it would probably be more complicated to achieve things because you'd have to do that thing where it's like, oh, I drop a pencil here, so that person stumbles, so they're late, blah, 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 right? Like, you can chain things together, but it would probably be more difficult than being omnipotent from the get-go.
Well, if infinite knowledge means mastering metaphysics also, then you could, in theory, become omnipotent.
I mean, that's one of those things where, like, the question is, like, is that actually a thing that can be done, right? Like, you should theoretically be able to figure out how to stop yourself from aging and stuff like that, because there are animals that effectively don't age, and you should be able to replicate that in humans. And with infinite knowledge, there shouldn't be any practical limitations to that, and so on and so forth. But I think in terms of, like, giving yourself the literal power to, like, move things with your mind and stuff like that, it's like, it might just not be possible. I mean, I guess
maybe not.
I mean, I guess you could always do the thing where you have, like, brain interface nanobots or something that should be possible, I guess, right? And you could effectively, but why risk? I mean, I guess there's no risk if you have infinite knowledge because you would know any possible side effects and be able to foresee and prevent them.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like,
yeah,
why go through all the extra hoops if you can just be omnipotent from the get-go and just give yourself the infinite knowledge?
Yeah, true. Take the easy way out.
Because I can't guarantee you that I can approximate omnipotence sufficiently with infinite knowledge, because I can't even know what infinite knowledge means.
Yeah, true. But if you can guarantee omnipotence, then you can guarantee infinite knowledge.
Yes, exactly. So even if, in theory, those should almost be identical, I think the omnipotence is just a little more powerful. Because it's more guaranteed. Which brings us to our final segment. Songs of the Week. What is your Song of the Week?
This week it is a typo negative. Everything Dies. Oh man, I love Typo Negative. One of the greatest gothic industrial bands of all time. I still hate that Peter Steele died, but of course, everything dies.
Yeah, I find it's interesting. I don't love this particular song all that much, but like I get what they're going for. I'm not a big fan of like the fact that's like really quiet, and then like I feel like they're overdoing that to some degree, and also I think they for me they almost have a little bit too much of a share of like the quiet contemplative kind of stuff to the ratio to like the more energetic stuff. If it was overall just a little energetic and more consistent in volume, I mean I guess I could literally adjust the volume if I wanted to, but you know what I mean. If it was like a little more consistent there and had a little more overall energy, I might like this, but this is. I don't particularly like this overall, I would say.
Shame. Because it's a really great song.
Yeah, but this is not one of those where I'm like, I fundamentally disagree with like the way this is made, right? This is more like I just don't quite like how it came together. I suppose.
You're picking apart the editing and mastering of it.
I mean, yes. I mean, I just noticed that when I had an answer, right? Like the actual difference between like the quiet parts and all parts is actually quite substantial.
Yeah.
But also just in general, right? Like I like a little bit more energy in my music overall, I think. Like I do have some songs that are maybe a bit more chill, but I don't know. This just didn't hit it for me. I don't know.
Yeah, if you're looking for energetic, you're probably not going to find it in Typo Negative. Although some of their early works was more hardcore punk, coming out of New York when they were, before they kind of took a turn toward the gothic industrial scene, and Peter Steele started singing like Dracula all of a sudden. But if you go back to their early works, then yeah, there's a lot more punk derived music in their early days.
I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm not going to like any of their songs. I can't say, right? That's one of those things. But this particular one just didn't do it for me. Anything else you want to say about this song before I move on to mine?
No, go for it.
My song of the week is Hunting High and Low by a-ha.
And I watch her sleeping away, but I know I'll be hunting high and low. There's no end to the lengths I'll go to.
Not exactly the fastest, most energetic song either, I realize. But I don't know. This one I like.
I don't know. It's just too slow for me, man. I don't know.
Sometimes I find it hard to like really nail why I do or don't like a song.
Yeah.
I don't know. The other one just gave me the wrong energy. This one is doing it for me.
Well, the other one was supposed to be depressing because of the subject matter anyway.
Yeah.
But this is not bad. I don't know that I've ever heard it. It's definitely no Take on Me, but not bad from what I've heard.
I mean, yeah, Take On Me is probably their most famous. I mean, it's definitely the most famous song, but they had a couple good ones.
Absolutely.
I wonder, actually, come to think of it, I wonder how successful a-ha was internationally versus... By which I mean, I guess, how successful they were in the US versus in Europe. Because they are Swedish, I think. They're Norwegian.
Yeah.
Dare I say close enough? I want to see really quickly, where did they... No, they charted a bit in the US as well. Their first 3 albums all charted in the US. Although... 15, 74, 148. I didn't even know that the charts went past 100. But yeah, no, in Norway they're like 1.
I bet.
Okay, the last 3 albums only got 2. Foot of the Mountain was only 2. Okay, anyways. Compilation albums, box sets, reissues, EPs, singles. I think it's much more. Yeah, Take On Me has been like number 1 in Norway. Is it Australia or Austria? Australia.
Probably both.
Oh, both. Yeah, that's true. The next I was like AUS. Which one is that? It's Australia. But then it's AUT, which is Austria, which I guess is from French, Autriche. But anyways, number 1 in Norway, Australia, Austria, Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and the US. Number 2 in the UK and Ireland, and number 3 in France. The Sun Always Shines on TV also ranked fairly well, but better in Europe. In US is only 20, Australia is only 19. In the European countries that named were all top 10 still. There's a couple that charted only in Europe. Let's see. Hunting High and Low. Is it also on here? Oh yeah, Hunting High and Low.
That was their first hit, right? Or was it a second? Was it before or after? Take
On Me was 1984, the original version, and the big one that charted was 1985. As was The Sun Always Shines on TV, and then 1986 was Hunting High and Low. As well as Train of Thought, I've Been Losing You, Cry Wolf, Maybe, and yeah, no, that's it for 86. But yeah, that one charted 10 in Norway, 33 in Australia, 24 in Austria, 4th in France, 11th in Germany, 4th in Ireland, 9th in the Netherlands, didn't chart in Switzerland, did chart 5th in the UK, and not at all in the US. So yeah, that is probably why you haven't heard of that, because it was just more popular in Europe. As was most of their music.
Yep. See, and here we would consider them a one-hit wonder over here in America. But little do we know, they still had hits in other countries.
I mean, they had 3 songs that charted in the US. Take On Me was number 1, The Sun Always Shines on TV peaked at 20, and Cry Wolf at 50. So,
Most people probably don't remember Cry Wolf. The Sun Always Shines on TV. I have heard that. And I'm pretty sure I heard Cry Wolf also, but most people wouldn't recognize those titles, so they would be considered a one-hit wonder. Even if they did chart, some people still consider them a one-hit wonder.
Foot of the Mountain barely charted at all, but that's also 2009 apparently, which is fairly late for them. Which is
2009, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they started in 84 apparently, or at least they started charting in 84.
Yeah.
And they are still releasing songs to this day apparently. Their most recent singles are from 2022.
Oh, wow.
And most recent album is from... Wait, no, it's compilation albums. Fucking hell, album status. It's also from 2022. Go figure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Years active, 1982 through 1994, 1998 through 2010, 2011, 2015 through present. So they're just
So it sounds
on
like
and off.
reunion tours. Yeah.
I mean, they're still making new music though, which is still something, right? Sometimes you have those bands where they're like still active, but they haven't released any new music in 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just still touring with their old hits.
Mm-hmm. Some people only want to go to concerts to see the old hits, though. Like Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan, he'll do a show and he'll be like, I'm not going to play any of the old songs tonight. I'm only doing the new album. And then people start booing and people walk out. And it's like, some people only want to see your old hits. Just do the hits.
I mean, I think this is kind of something that you have to strike a balance with. Because on the one hand, I get why you don't want to like be trapped by your old hits, right? You want to make new stuff and whatnot, but at the same time,
I understand. Yeah.
If you have like one song that you're like really heavily associated with, or like one or two songs,
yeah,
you better play them, right? Like,
yeah, that's what they came there to hear.
It's like, even if you don't love the song anymore, this is like, it's a big part of why people are coming. Right? You can play your new stuff and some of your greatest hits. I think that's not necessarily
that's the smart thing to do. Yeah. Like don't put on a show just to play all of your brand new album because you were a hit 30 years ago. That's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear your new album. They didn't even know you released the new album. But yeah, he's known for pissing off his fans like that.
Yeah, I don't think it's the smartest thing.
A lot of artists do that though,
Yeah, it's also the thing that usually they don't even like their biggest song that much, and over time they tend to like it even less. So it's oftentimes that thing as well. It happens, I think, especially if you have like artists that are a bit more alternative, that are like punk or something like that, and they have like a more mainstream successful hit. It's usually like their least favorite song.
Oh yeah, I bet. Like Alien Ant Farm with Smooth Criminal.
It's not even their song. It's just
exactly.
Like their song is, like their version is worse than the original. I don't know why people like it. They love it so much. It's, like Michael
they
Jackson
were
did it
one-hit
better.
wonders. They were one-hit wonders because of a cover song.
Yeah. And
I guarantee you, though, they hate playing that song when they do shows.
And in my personal opinion, their cover is worse than the original, which is the worst part about that. Is like that's the one song I know from them, and it's worse than the original. Like, if at least
I don't think it's bad, but it's not as good as the original by far.
If at least the one song I know for is if the cover is at least better than the original, it's like, okay,
yeah,
I'll give you that one, right?
Yeah. But it wasn't. It wasn't as good as the original.
But yeah, no, this isn't the topic. We're just. I was just curious when you mentioned not having heard the song, because sometimes it's a thing where like a European band will become really successful in Europe, but will barely penetrate in the US, even when they sing in English. I mean, it's even more common when they're singing in another language, but even in English, sometimes it just happens that they're just popular in Europe. I don't know if the sensibilities are just different or what, but especially back in the day, that was a very common thing that you would like. I think even now, occasionally you get it where it's like a huge hit in Europe and the Americans have never heard of it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Like Nightwish, most Americans don't even know who Nightwish is.
Yeah, but also metal is just not that mainstream in general. I don't know if most Germans would know what Nightwish is.
I don't know. I mean, no, like Metallica is huge, but that's thrash
yeah.
compared to symphonic. But yeah,
I mean, also, you know, you get a couple big ones, right? Like everyone knows Iron Maiden, but like Nightwish, it's a bit more.
yeah.
Where was I? It was
Yeah,
Nightwish.
it's a bit more nuanced, yeah.
Do we have a?
But they are huge in Europe.
Are they?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, they did apparently. Okay, some of their albums did actually chart in Germany, including once hit #1 in Germany, and that's what I don't think I've ever heard them being played on the radio.
I always wondered if they do get radio play.
Apparently, a couple of the hits charted in Germany. I mean, the highest was Nemo at 6. Okay, I mean, Nemo's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not their best song, though, I would say.
No, Ghost Love Score is their best song, by far.
I mean... let me have a look. Music, Nightwish... I don't know. I mean, they actually have a couple really good ones. We probably shouldn't be doing this right now. We're just like,
yeah, while we're still on the air.
Yeah, randomly
looking up Nightwish songs.
randomly going through a bunch of artists, and just seeing what their best songs are. Let's see. I think I have something here that I never downloaded. Nightwish. Oh, great. 0 because it hasn't loaded them yet. Endless Forms Was Beautiful is really good.
Some of it. Yeah.
While the Lips Are Still Red, I like quite a bit.
I wondered if they had bigger hits with Tarja or with Floor.
I'm bad with like. I know that there are like 2 of the 3 or so singers that they've had, but I genuinely couldn't tell you which song was sung by whom.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the dates that these hits came out.
Also, I mean, it depends heavily by which country you look at. I think Nemo might have been the overall most successful one, although, I mean, even in some of the countries, it's tied for the best in Switzerland. I mean, obviously, it ranked first in Finland and Hungary, where that obviously then is also tied with some other songs. But in the Netherlands, I'm assuming that's what NLD stands for, their best song would have been Amaranth, which actually is also really good.
Yeah. I was just looking at that. Nemo, Amaranth, Storytime, Sleeping Sun, Everdream.
Endless Forms Was Beautiful didn't chart at all anywhere?
Which one didn't?
Endless Forms Was Beautiful. I think it's one of their best songs. It just straight up didn't chart anywhere. Apparently, it was also the name of the album, but Ilan was the one that ended up charting.
Yeah,
which, granted, also really good, but
that was just the title track. Yeah, yeah. Apparently, Nemo is their biggest hit.
Yeah, I mean that is fairly. I think it was it was the biggest hit in. Well, tied for biggest in Finland and Hungary, as I said. It's the biggest in Germany. It's the biggest in Austria.
Ghost Love Score was their 7th biggest hit.
Amaranth is the only one that charted in every country that they have on the list here for the peak chart positions. Because Nemo didn't chart in Spain. Okay, random, but okay.
Yeah. Well, either way, still great band.
Yeah, good stuff. Europe and especially Northern Europe produces a lot of good music. Which brings this episode of the Trash Talk Podcast to a close. Don't forget to check out the Trash Talkers, and if you want to see more videos like this, you might want to subscribe to this channel. You can also like the video, and if you have something to say, leave a comment or join us on server. Link is in the description below. Smokey.
That's it.
That's it.